Hey guys, this is Tom, and I'm traveling to you from the past, September 14th, 2009, because I can't be with you today because I'm downstairs teaching. So, I've got my little time machine, my video time machine, and I'm coming at you to talk about The Door into Summer by Robert Heinlein. Now, what do I like about this book? Well, I always go into a Robert Heinlein book thinking I'm not going to enjoy it because a lot of his stuff was written so long ago. And writers back in the 1950s did not write the greatest prose. They did not have really well-developed characters. The idea of science fiction back then was to teach a science lesson, not tell a really great story so much. But Heinlein is great at telling a really great story. So much so that his stories have been copied over and over again, and, unfortunately a lot of the stuff he did we've seen before because of the derivatives that have come from that. But what Heinlein does is he makes interesting characters in his stories. True, they're still a little bit flat by today's standards. And they're flat by maybe a lot of literary standards. But for science fiction of the 1950s, these characters had some great depth, okay? The story, like I said, was written in 1956. And the story actually starts off in 1970. Thus, I have the lava lamp. Ooh, see, effective staging makes a great video. So, it takes place in the 1970s. The Cold War has fired up, and there have been nukes dropped on the United States. And there's a man, Daniel Boone Davis, who's decided he's going to put himself into cryogenic suspension. He's going to freeze himself like Walt Disney wanted to do, and come back in the year 2000. Why does he want to do this? Well, because his former fiancée and best friend have decided to screw him over in a business deal. Now, Daniel was an inventor, and one of the great parts about Heinlein's writing is that when he's talking about devices, you can really see the man as an engineer, because when I read about Daniel's invention of the flexible frank, I thought, I could probably build one of these because Heinlein's description has such detail in it. And I thought, why don't they have this right now? The directions are right here in the book. Well, of course, Heinlein goes and invents things like Thorson tubes, which is another indication of that 1950s, everything needs tubes. We don't have solid state really going on. Although he does predict that later on in the book, the more solid state circuits. So, anyway, he's going to freeze himself and his cat. He's very loyal to his cat. The cat is the only one who hasn't turned on him. His cat and a little girl named Ricky. One of the interesting things is in this book is the art of psychiatry, the practice of psychiatry. A lot of these old science fiction books think that psychiatrists can magically draw out memories out of the mind, and that you can, if you try to hide something in someone's mind, a really good psychiatrist can pull it out again. Well, even an amateur one. So they have these powers beyond what they actually have. So you see that a lot in the old science fiction where psychiatrists and mental powers and hiding things in someone's brain and pulling them out are easy if you're professional enough. But anyway, he decides to go into sleep. He has a problem with his business associates, and they try to screw him over a second time, and they get him into the cryogenic sleep, and they kind of get a lot of his assets, try to get them assigned over to him. Now, one of the creepy things in this book is that there's this 10-year-old girl, and Davis kind of says, I'm going to go to sleep for 30 years. She's 10 years old. When I wake up, she'll be 40. I think I'll marry her. And I thought this was a little creepy. And I don't know how it played back in the 1950s, but today, if someone's looking at a 10-year-old girl with intentions to marry, I don't think it goes over real well. But for him, it's a perfectly natural thing to think this. Okay, where was it? So he goes into the future, and one of the things that I love that Heinlein does in this book is that he tries to show that the language has evolved and changed over the 30 years that he was sleeping. For example, the word kink becomes a very, very bad word in the future, in the year 2000. So kink, I think, is probably equivalent of the F word. And so, and it's very interesting because at one point, he accidentally uses the word kink in front of this lady, and the lady's husband decides that he's going to beat him up if he keeps using that word in front of them. Now, that's kind of interesting and kind of anachronistic because who do you know today that would start a fist fight because someone used a bad word in front of a lady? Although, I personally think we should probably strive, maybe not to violence, but, better language in public. But he does try to do that. But yet, throughout this book, we're laced with all these old 1950s terms. For example, he uses the term swell, okay? And whenever you see swell, you instantly think Ozzie and Harriet, 1950s. What else does he use? Savvy the skinny. Love that term, savvy the skinny. So I just love the use of language and where he's trying to learn this new language and figure out what's going on in the world. And if you think how much the language has changed from the 1950s to now, I think he has the amount of language change right. I don't, he didn't exactly get the words correct. Kink is not a bad word, although kinky is kind of a little, a little strange. One of the other things that Heinlein kind of got wrong in predicting the future is he predicted that there will still be phone operators, and that always gives me a kick, that there will be phone operators. One of the things he did get right was in the world of banking, having these banks connected so that you didn't have to go just to your bank. And we have that today with our ATMs. He didn't really predict ATMs. You still had to go and talk to a person, but we did have these ATMs. Or we didn't have ATMs. We had connected banks, so I could go to another bank and cash my check there. Let's see. What else did I like about this book? I like the cat. I think the cat had a lot of personality, too. Let's see. Oh, another funny thing that he got wrong was in the year 2000, one-day beer growth would make you seem really like a wild man. Woo! And I mean, that was the style in 2000, was to not shave for 3 or 4 days, get the old Yasser Arafat kind of look going on. Let's see. Well, I think that's all I want to say about this book for now. I do recommend this book. I was really surprised reading it. It's a short read. It's a fast read. Once you get into it, the action is just boom, boom, boom. So I would highly recommend The Door into Summer by Robert Heinlein. Oh,